Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the pristine corridors of the Galactic Council Station for what would be the last time as humanity's representative. The crystalline walls hummed with alien frequencies, a sound that had once filled him with wonder, but now felt like mockery. Behind him, the ornate doors of the council chamber had just sealed shut, finalizing humanity's expulsion from the oldest governing body in the galaxy. The vote had been unanimous among the remaining 17 species. The Zephyrians had cited humanity's reckless expansion patterns. The Korthak Empire complained about human disregard for established trade protocols. Even the usually neutral Etherians had voted against them, claiming humans were too unpredictable for galactic stability. Chen's communication device chirped, with an encrypted message from Earth, package delivered, awaiting your signal. He smiled grimly and activated his personal transmitter. Execute Operation Prometheus. 3 years earlier, when the first whispers of humanity's potential expulsion had begun, Earth's greatest minds had gathered in secret. They called themselves the Prometheus Group, after the mythological figure who stole fire from the gods. Their mission was simple. If the galaxy's elite wouldn't let humanity play by their rules, then humanity would change the rules entirely. Dr. Sarah Kim, the project's lead physicist, had made the breakthrough. While the galactic powers hoarded their advanced technologies behind layers of patents and trade agreements, humanity had been quietly developing something revolutionary. They called it the quantum sympathy drive, a propulsion system that didn't just bend space-time like conventional FTL drives, but created sympathetic resonances between distant points in the universe. The beauty of the QSD wasn't just its speed, it was its democratization of space travel. Unlike alien FTL technology that required rare elements controlled by the Council's member species, the QSD could be built using materials abundant throughout the galaxy. More importantly, it was impossible to regulate or restrict because it operated on quantum principles that made tracking and interdiction theoretically impossible. As Chen walked toward his ship, alerts began flashing throughout the station. The first QSD-equipped human vessels had begun their deployment, and the galaxy's sensor networks were struggling to comprehend what they were detecting. On the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon, Captain Maria Santos watched her crew work with practiced efficiency. They had just completed humanity's first quantum jump to the previously unexplored Andromeda approach, a region the Council had declared off-limits pending proper survey protocols that had been pending for 3 centuries. "Captain, we're detecting 17 habitable worlds in this system alone," reported her science officer. "No signs of intelligent life, but massive mineral deposits and what appears to be a stable network of space-time anomalies that could serve as natural FTL highways." Santos nodded. "Begin settlement protocols and send a message to the colonial fleet. Tell them we've found their new home." Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim territories, Commander Jake Thompson's diplomatic vessel approached a space station belonging to the Freelance Mining Consortium, one of hundreds of independent groups that had been systematically excluded from galactic trade by the Council's restrictive economic policies. "This is unexpected, human," croaked Gorthak, the station's reptilian administrator, over the communication channel. "The Council forbids trade with unregistered species." Thompson smiled. "Well, that's interesting, because we're not part of the Council anymore. And we have something that might interest you, technology that could make your mining operations 1,000 times more efficient with no oversight from the Council required." The silence that followed was telling. When Gorthak spoke again, his voice carried a note of excitement that his species rarely displayed. What kind of technology?" Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. Humanity had spent 2 years identifying every species, organization, and individual that had been marginalized by the Council's rigid hierarchy. Now, armed with technology that made them impossible to contain and resources that made them valuable allies, humans were offering partnerships to anyone willing to work outside the Council's control. The Vagrant Collective, a nomadic species denied permanent representation for millennia, suddenly found themselves with access to worlds that could serve as permanent homes. The Synthetic Liberation Front, whose artificial intelligences had been declared non-persons by council law, discovered that humans recognized them as full equals. Even the mysterious deep dwellers, who had retreated to the galaxy's dark matter regions after being deemed too alien for normal diplomatic relations, received human ambassadors bearing gifts of technology and respect. 6 months after humanity's expulsion, Ambassador Chen, now Director Chen of the Free Galactic Alliance, stood in the command center of humanity's first mobile diplomatic station. The Prometheus hung in space at the edge of Council territory, its quantum drives humming softly. "Status report," he requested. "Sir, the Alliance now includes 47 member species and over 300 independent organizations," reported his aide. "Our territory encompasses roughly 30% of the galaxy, including some of the richest resource regions. The Council's trade monopolies are beginning to collapse as more species switch to our open-source technology standards." Chen nodded, watching the tactical display that showed the shifting balance of power. The Council still controlled the galaxy's historical centers of power, but they were increasingly isolated islands in a sea of change. His communication officer looked up from her console. "Director, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It's a request for diplomatic talks." Chen almost laughed. The same council that had dismissed humanity as too chaotic and insufficiently mature for galactic governance was now asking to negotiate. He thought of all the species that had been excluded, marginalized, or exploited by the Council's rigid systems. He thought of the technologies that had been hoarded, the worlds that had been restricted, the potential that had been wasted in the name of maintaining order. "Tell them," Chen said quietly, "that the Free Galactic Alliance is always open to diplomatic relations, but they'll be negotiating as equals now, not as overlords." As the message was transmitted, Chen reflected on humanity's journey. They had been kicked out of the Council for being too unpredictable, too innovative, too willing to challenge the status quo. But in trying to contain humanity, the Council had freed them to do what humans did best: find another way. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, Chen thought, was exactly the point.